How you doing, people? Welcome back to another ESO build video. Today is an End Arc Nightblade. Yes, for the Endless Archive, I have updated the Status Pro build to be very specific for that arena. Now, the original build is absolutely fine. You don't have to change anything if you don't want to, but if you do want something very specific to the Endless Archive, look no further. This one-bar Nightblade is going to smash stuff apart. So if you want to see more of this, stay tuned. It's coming right up. So we're going to start, as we do with most build videos, with the stats. Now, obviously, this is going to be a little different to the other build videos because, one, this is an update to an existing build just for the purpose of Endless Archive, and two, the class guides are now present. So I'm not going to go over the skills in as much detail as usual because you can find all the information there. If you look at the top right-hand corner now, there is a link for you to tell you everything you need to know about the Nightblade class, skills, morphs, ultimates, etc., just in case any of this is a bit confusing. So, first of all, we're going to go into the character stats. We got a title. We're sitting on almost 35k max magicka, 26k max health almost, and again, almost 14k max stamina. As far as recovery is concerned, we're on 900, 519, and 882. Spell damage currently sitting on 4-3, but if you proc all of your Grim Focus stacks, then hold them, you're going to be sitting around 4.7. And of course, our spell penetration and physical penetration at the moment is sitting on 5004, but if you're flanking the enemy, that's actually 7.9k. Spell and weapon crit, again, is 51.7, but that does change if you have a sorcerer in your room, in your group even, because that will actually go up with Minor Prophecy. Not to mention, of course, we've got Minor Savagery, so that does contribute towards our physical benefits from skills and such that we could unlock inside the Endless Archive, including the Bleed. We know which one we're talking about, the big one. Now, spell resistance is actually pretty good alongside physical resistance. We're sitting on 19 and 17k. That's not perfect. It's not going to save you from everything, but it will help. If you get Minor Resolve in your duo, that would be great. But for the time being, that is what we're sitting on all the time, and it never actually changes because we're using the one ring. That stays with us all the time with Major Resolve. 64 points into max magicka. All these buffs and bonuses, I'm sure you know about the Oaken Ring. And max health, max magicka food. Now, if you are struggling with sustainability with this particular build, bear in mind there's two options. One, heavy attack more often. It's got a dot attached to it. The other one is this food. That's expensive, but it lasts a bloody long time. You're going to make loads of money in the Endless Archive anyway, so it's win-win. This does give you less health. It does give you less magicka. So technically, your DPS is lower if you were to be able to sustain it all the time. But you do have magicka recovery and you do have health recovery. Health recovery is actually quite important towards the build because we are going to have to offset a set we're using. That will make more sense when we get to the gear section. Now, skills. As far as they're concerned, they're very, very simple. Much like the Status Pro build itself, but with a slight twist. So, I mean, that wasn't supposed to be a pun, but we got there anyway, right? Twisting Path, obviously, is the first major skill that we're using. That is an Area of Effect ability, which does damage over time. It's not massive as far as the damage output is concerned, and it won't be a huge impact in the Endless Archive, but it does come with a speed buff. So if you want a tiny bit of Area of Effect damage alongside that speed buff to keep you really, really agile, then this is what you need to be using. Now, bear in mind, if you are struggling with this, or if you're solo a lot, you can take advantage of the other morph. The other morph has a corridor effect rather than a conal effect, and instead of doing damage, it will heal you. That also offsets one of the sets that we're using, so that's actually very, very beneficial. It just depends on which you preference. If you do use the healing morph, you'll have 0 AoE whatsoever. So it will be very much single target smasher, which is pretty much what the build is anyway. Now, next up is Swallow Soul. This is very important. You have to take in this statement if you are to understand the build. This must always be running. It lasts 10 seconds. Yes, it does damage initially, obviously. That's also explained in the skills video. But obviously, it's not going to do more damage than our spammable. The point of it is to do some damage at the same time as having a constant 10-second heal over time. The other morph of this, if you're in a duo, is actually quite helpful because you heal you and another member. But because it does less damage and more healing, the actual balance between the two turned out that that does less healing for you versus this skill. This is scaled off of damage. This damage is higher. You end up with a bigger heal. This one is the selfish one. Yes, just for you. The other one is for you and a friend. The choice is 100% up to you, but you must maintain this all the time if you're going to be successful with this build. Because the more kills you get, the more you're going to need this. Keep that up all the time. You don't have to spam it unless you're in emergency situations, in which case, of course, you can switch this to your spammable if you want to heal every second instead of every 2. But it scales off of your damage, so if you get big crit, big heals. If you don't crit, then a bit less. These two, keep them up all the time. Merciless Resolve, do not fire it. Yes, you can pick the stamina morph if you want, but I wouldn't recommend it. I know someone at the back is arguing, saying, well, you get 80 weapon and spell damage per stack instead of 60. Yes, you do. But the damage is less, and the heal is going to be not as efficient for you, because this is your emergency heal. This has a harsher hit and a bigger heal, whereas the other one just has higher weapon and spell damage and costs stamina. Costing stamina is a problem. You need to dodge, you need to run, you need to break, you need to block. You are basically relying on yourself most of the time in this particular arena. So this one was better for both resource sustainability and the bigger heal. Basically, every light attack you deal, or every heavy attack you deal, is going to stack up stacks for this, and it's going to end up glowing. If it's glowing, you have that emergency heal at close range whenever you need it, alongside your constant heals from this. That is a lifesaver. Don't use it unless you need it. Just take the spell damage bonus. Crush and Shock is your main spammable. So pretty much all the time, you're going to be light attack spamming this while maintaining these two. You don't have a rotation. This is not a target dummy hump build. This is for content, and this is for very specific content. Fast-paced fighting. Spam this with light attacks all day long. Light attack hit, light attack hit, light attack hit. Every single hit of this is Flame, Frost, and Shock, and you're knocking enemies off balance when you interrupt them. Not to mention, off balance is beneficial if you heavy attack, which you should be doing, because you'll get the flame damage over time from it. We'll go over that here. Heavy attack on a target puts a nasty dot on it. And your resource management is covered. You are going to encounter a lot of enemies that you need to interrupt. This long-ranged interrupt is a game changer. And one more thing to note about this particular skill. There is a perk in Endless Archives called Mighty Bash. The description is hard to understand. It looks like bashing a target makes it go boom. Technically, that's true. But read it very carefully when you see it again, or even here. When you bash a target, you stun them. Full stop. When you interrupt a target, they go bang. So, if you bash a target while they can be interrupted, they will be stunned from a regular bash. But at the same time, any interruption at all makes them explode. Crush and Shock is an interrupt, it works. If you see that bonus, you are going to be using this on every single target. You are going to default interrupt. You are going to make the room go bang. So, spam this. If anything goes low, next up, your execute. Again, don't take the stamina morph. You're not going to be able to sustain it. In big, stressful situations, you're going to run out of stamina. This version is better because it's got long range and it costs magicka. Obviously, don't use this until they are under 25% health because it's not going to be useful. But once it is, that is going to benefit you alongside your passives for the Nightblade, where you actually get back resources for getting kills. So, spam that, execute with that, keep up that heal all the time, and keep your path down for your speed and some area of effect damage or heals depending on the morph you take. The ultimate is really easy. Soul Harvest is the morph of Deathstroke that we've taken on purpose. This does magic damage initially to the target, and the target that you just activated this on within 7 meters, bear in mind it's a 0.4 second channel, so you can't actually animation cancel this. You'll do 20% extra damage to that target. Now if they die, obviously you don't have 20% damage to everything else, just the one that you did hit. But this is 70 ultimate, it is stupidly cheap. It afflicts the target with major defile, so their healing is nuked, which isn't necessarily that important. But while slotted, anytime you get a kill, and you will consistently, you gain 10 ultimate. Alongside your ulti regen, alongside your potion popping passive, all this stuff adds up, and you can borderline spam this in some situations. You are always going to have extra damage. So if you see a Flame Shaper, an Infuser, a Spellfucker, I can't remember the name, Spell Thief. Yes, we have names for them on stream. Anything like that, those are your primary targets. You want to be dropping that ultimate on them as soon as possible. Get in, hit them with it, crush and shock spam the hell out of them, keep a heal up, and execute them as soon as you can. You can burn them down very, very fast, even at later arcs, if you're lucky with your perks and bonuses. Now we're going to go over those. Perks and bonuses for the Endless Archive do vary quite dramatically. You've got damage ones, you've got survival ones for healing and damage mitigation and all that kind of stuff. You've got lots of different things that you could take. Now, while I would recommend, if you're a DPS, build for tankiness, if you're a tank, build for DPS, you can kind of meet in the middle somewhere when it inevitably gets more difficult, there is one major bonus that you have to have for this build. Now, granted, we all want the Ferocious Support. Ferocious Support is a massive bleed, and all you have to do is heavy attack. So, on this particular build, I recommend that you wind up a heavy attack, animation cancel with Crush and Shock. There's a video there that will help you understand how to do that. And now everything is front-loaded. But this build is designed to take advantage of status effects and guaranteed status effects. You need to get the perk Focus Efforts. If you see Focused Efforts, I don't care what else is in the room, you need it. One stack of it is going to dramatically enhance your DPS in early rounds, and especially in later rounds if you're really good at it. One stack is nice. I have had up to 4 stacks so far, and depending on other buffs and bonuses in the room at the time with your group, as in your partner, or other verses that you can pick up, visions as well, they obviously contribute. I have seen in excess of around 70k ticks of burn-in status effect and poison status effects. And you're spamming those. They are going to hit everyone. It gets really, really dramatic. So above all, that is something you're going to need. Along the way, however, you are going to want healing done. You are going to want damage mitigation bonuses. So make sure that you kind of balance that out. But Focused Efforts, as soon as you see that, happy days, get it. Now, a brief look at passives. Obviously, this is all in the class guide. Again, the link down below will tell you everything you need to know about the Nightblade. But just understand some of the ones that we're taking advantage of. Obviously, we're going to get them all anyway. But if you're flanking an enemy, you get more penetration. So we're not on 5k, we're actually on 7.9. We've got extra crit chance because of the amount of assassination abilities on the bar. And of course, you get resources back if you damage an enemy and then it dies within 2 seconds of you hitting it with these mega skills here, which you're going to be using all the time. Now, obviously, you're the one hitting, so you're going to get stuff back. And of course, we've got crit damage all the time. Easy peasy. Shadow stuff, we're only using 1 skill here. We're not benefiting from the Major Resolve because we've already got Major Resolve with the Oaken Soul Ring. But we are going to take advantage of stam recovery, maximum health, which is really, really nice. The more health you have, the less squishy you are. And of course, increased duration of these abilities as well. So your twist and path lasts a bit longer. Then, of course, we've got siphoning. You do need 1 siphoning ability on your bar. Not for the potion passive. We're going to pop that anyway. Always pop your potions. But for this, the 8% increase is a damage modifier. We do need that. Get 1 skill on your bar. The way that we did that, obviously, was to take advantage of Swallow Soul. If you do have a very active healer, then sure, you could probably put Siphon and attacks on, but I've tried it. It didn't really work out that well. Swallow Soul was really good, especially in emergencies, because you can light spam, light spam, light spam. You don't need to. It's a hot. But if you're in real trouble, you can change that 2-second tick to a 1-second spam. Obviously, generate an ulti from using it too. So in really tight situations, that can help. Destro stuff, obviously try focus. Wind up a heavy, hit them with crush and shock. You've got a massive damage over time there. That does escalate. Things can get really crazy. And of course, your heavy attack is increased, but alongside of that, you've got status damage. 12% increase to damage over time, which yes, the flame dot and the ferocious support dot and all that kind of stuff stacks up. And then 12% status effect. That does obviously improve the base of status effects. Their flat damage and their damage over time, regardless of where they're from. And also, Focused Effort stacks on top of that horrendously. It's absolutely incredible. And of course, you get magic back for using Destro abilities. If you kill something with Crush and Shock because you didn't quite get to your execute, you still get 3.6k magicka back. So if you kill it with your execute, you get 1,000 and stamina. If you kill it with Crush and Shock, you get loads and loads of magicka. So there's your sustainability there if you're getting quick kills. We are, of course, using a mixture of armor types. We're actually only using... how many light pieces have we got? 3. We're using... I have to remember that. 3 light, 4 medium. So we are taking advantage of some agility-based bonuses, which are really, really helpful. And some flat damage and crit bonuses. We've got crit healing, crit damage, flat weapon and spell damage. We aren't going to crit our heals from Swallow Soul because it's based off of the damage you do. If you crit the damage, you won't crit the heal. But we can if we're using Twisting Path, if we're using the healing version, the refreshing path. We're not using any heavy armor at all. None. So we've got no passives in here whatsoever. It's just medium and light. Pen bonuses and recovery, dodge roll reduction, and weapon and spell damage and crit damage. This balance was really, really nice. You can tip that if you want to, but so far this has been, or at least felt, optimal. All of these are irrelevant. We are a cat. The race is the least impactful choice of any passives, but this was done for good reason. Take it or leave it, basically. Health recovery, mag recovery, stam recovery. Stam recovery is helpful because obviously we're going to utilize our stam bar for blocks, dodge, break free, CC in general. Magical recovery does stack up, so that does help us, especially since we're spamming, but we're using heavy attacks a lot anyway, so that's here nor there. The health recovery is important. We do need to sustain our health. We need recovery, we need heals. It's very important when we get to the gear coming up. Increase max health, max magicka, and max stamina. Nearly 1k across the board. Can't sneeze at that. And of course, critical damage. That's going to help. We don't have all the benefits of the dummy in there. We're on our own, or we're with one group member. Not 11 other people, not 3 other people, 1. That crit damage bonus there, and the Nightblade crit damage bonus, stacked together, give you a really, really good start. Now, champion points. This is bloody bonkers. It doesn't look like a lot. 8% of direct damage done. You wait until you start getting buffs and bonuses. That is your survival benefit. We are doing pretty much nothing but direct damage when it comes to our spammable. Light attack is direct. Heavy is a direct hit. The crush and shock is 3 direct hits. The execute is a direct hit. Your ultimate is a direct hit. The only things that aren't, even Swallow Soul is actually, the only things that aren't are your Twisting Path and your bleed effects or your damage over time effects from status or heavies. Everything else is a direct hit. You will heal all the time for playing aggressive. You've got Swallow Soul to keep you alive every 2 seconds. You've got your emergency bow just in case you need to heal. You've got good health recovery. And now every single time you hit something, the stronger you hit, the bigger the heal. Get that as soon as possible. Don't even mess around with other stuff. Get that. Made a big, big difference. Tipped the scales massively. Deadly aim, obviously, single target damage is what we are built for. We are going to be killing enemies one after the other, rather than big booms, but it is very impactful, so get this as soon as you can. All of our direct is single target, and so is all of our status effects. Master at Arms, again, direct stuff. So single target stuff, everything. Direct stuff, pretty much everything else. Those two stack perfectly together. Now, when it comes to passive bonuses, obviously these yellow ones can be unlocked in your own time. Get them all. Outside of that, obviously, get your mitigation bonuses as soon as possible because you are going to get hit all the time. And slot this. Ironclad, reduce the damage you take from direct attacks by 3% per stage. Not to mention, of course, this here, very, very handy. 10% reduction to all damage from non-player attacks. This is actually quite essential. This is slottable. This isn't. But this does help. Now, if you find that you're not getting hit by too many direct attacks, and you're getting hit by mostly damage over time, like bleeds and shit like that, basically you can put in this one instead, which reduces the damage from damage over time. Whichever one you choose is up to you, but you want a damage mitigation slottable regardless. So to recap, Reaving Blows for heals for damage done, Deadly Aim, Master at Arms, and of course Ironclad. You will get hit with direct attacks all the time, but if you find, again, the dots are more impactful, use this instead. Red Tree, nice and simple. No prerequisites here. This is more armor. This is more health. Get them as soon as you can. Then, come over to here. Put 15 points in here. 10 in here. And then fill this up so you've got more health. Once that's done, this and this. Every kill you get 1,500 magicka back. Every kill you get 1,500 stamina back. The rest of them are important non-slottable passives that will help towards your survivability, your resource sustainability as far as CC is concerned, because obviously cost reduction to break free and all that kind of stuff. But essentially, these two here, as long as you're getting kills, you're getting heals, and you're getting resources back. Green Tree doesn't really matter for combat. So where you put these is entirely up to you. But something I would highly recommend, Steed Blessing. While you're not in combat, you're faster. The secrets are not always combat-based. The pathway one, where you have to go through and make your path and get to the other end, you're not in combat. This will make you run faster. Now the gear. So, if you've watched the Status Pro video before, bear in mind that does still hit like a steam train. You can still use it, but you're squishier. It's perfect for all content, but this has been adapted for this particular arena and closed the gap on some pain points that you may have run into while you're solo or even in a group. So if you got to really high arcs, you'll realize you're obviously quite squishy. That's the design of the build you're meant to be. But we've covered that. We've made it so you survive a lot more, but with a twist. You are responsible for maintaining Swallow Soul. Keep that running. So, without further ado, Asylum's Perfected Inferno Staff. Don't panic, you don't need Perfected. If you would prefer, you can use the normal one from the normal version of the trial. The only difference is you don't get 103 weapons and spell damage. Everything else is the same. That's the only difference. So if you only get the normal version, it doesn't matter. You're not really going to notice that much. The set bonus is exactly the same on normal and perfected. So the actual outcome of the proc or the bonus is what we're after. It's the same. Let me explain. Every second cast of Force Shock will always guaranteed apply burning, concussion, and chilled status effects. You don't even need status chance. You guarantee it. And like I said, if you stack 4 focused efforts, if you're lucky enough, alongside other buffs and bonuses that you may come into contact with, I've seen in excess of 70k burning status effect ticks. Now you would argue sometimes, of course, burning only lasts 4 seconds. Well, you can spam every 1 second. So every second cast, you reapply it. It's not going to run out. And there is something very, very, very important about the burning status effect that is going to be quite impactful when it comes to the monster set choice, but we'll get there in a minute. While spamming your main spammable, you have massive long range, you have 3 different sources of damage, you heal from your hits, it's sustainable, and you apply 3 status effects. And they all get stronger the further you go. It's nuts. Try it. You won't regret it. Poison glyph on the weapon with precise. Now, yes, of course, if you had infused, you would get more damage from the poison glyph itself because it would fire more often and it would hit harder. But your crit chance would be down. You'd crit less often. It wasn't worth it. You can get poison enchants throughout the Endless Archive anyway, which enhance this, and that can go very, very high. So you can just stack some of those if you really want to. Failing that, if you do feel like you're really squishing, you don't want the poison status effect, which was silly. But if you don't want the poison status effect, which again is silly, you can, of course, take a damage shield. Choice is yours. You can then take advantage of the enhancement to enchants verse or vision even, and that can get quite dramatic later. However, again, that damage over time from the poison status effect is phenomenal. I would not take this off. Go risky. Don't be scared. Zahn, I can hear you at the back screaming, but that's only got limited range and a long cooldown. Yes, it does. But when you apply a crit with a light or a heavy attack, which you will, you have a 33% chance to tether the enemy for 10 seconds. As long as you remain within 8 meters of them, that will maintain, obviously for its duration. It does flame damage and it gets stronger every single tick. It's very, very powerful single target. However, it comes with a side effect. If you can cut this beam through other enemies, it will hurt them too. But wait, there's more. It scales off your weapon and spell damage for a start. It's damage over time and single target. Even though it hits multiples, it's single target because it's per target, not area of effect. And every single tick that this hits a target, it will reapply a burning status effect, which is all part of the build. Absolutely mental. So if you see this fire, cut it through as many enemies as you can. Every 1 second is going to reapply that burning status effect. Even if you just cut one for 1 second, that's another dot. It's really strong. And again, I know the range is only limited to 8 meters. But believe it or not, in Endless Archive, you're in 8 meters a lot. you will be close. People that are taking Fire Orb and learning how to cut through the enemy with a beam, get Fire Orb and this and watch everybody melt. Now, since we're using a monster set, and we're using a 2-piece bonus from a staff that is a full set, obviously we can't go 5-5-1, we can't go 5-5-2, we can't do any of that. Because we are utilizing the one ring. The Oaken Soul ring gives you so many bonuses. We are front-loaded with minor bonuses, alongside Empower, alongside Major Brutality, Major Sorcery, Major Prophecy, Major Savagery, Major Resolve, so we've got Resistance all the time, Minor Mending for increased healing, we've got Recovery bonuses, the lot. You can get bonuses from your partner, obviously, in the form of some major buffs, including Berserk and all those types of things. You've got Slayer and everything that you could get from them. There's loads of different things you can still get, but you do have a lot to start with. This means you can only stay on the bar you're on. It locks your bar, so we are a 1-bar build. But we want weapon and spell damage with Magicka recovery. That is Rapora, Makdiri, Kuta. Not Tadiri. Tadiri will give you the same bonus to weapon and spell damage, but it will give you a stam recovery bonus. We don't want that. It's nice, yes, but we want the Magicka recovery because to start with, until you unlock your recovery perks from the verses, you will have to heavy attack quite a bit. Unless you're using Citrus Fillet, of course. Now, the other 2 jewelry pieces are both willpower to give us a huge max Magicka bonus. As far as the 2 pieces is concerned, it's the highest max Magicka bonus you can get in the game. Yes, it would be nice if we could fit the 3rd one, but we can't because we're using the ring, and honestly, you don't want to take that off. The bonuses you get from that are absolutely phenomenal. It makes the group need to put in less effort for buffs and bonuses. Your build is so much simpler. If you were to take it off, you'd lose more than the 206 weapon and spell damage would be worth anyway. So keep the ring on, use 2 pieces of willpower, Magicka recovery and weapon and spell damage bonuses on each one, and Bloodthirsty on every single one to increase your damage over the duration of the fight. And finally, the twist you weren't necessarily ready for. We are using a crafted set. So for those of you out there going, oh, what trial set you using? None. The original Status Pro build does use a trial set because it is designed to take part in content with long fights. Pelinal. I'm going to explain how this works before people panic. Weapon and spell damage. Offensive penetration, weapon and spell damage. Very front-loaded with damage-based stats. Whenever you kill an enemy, you gain a damage shield that absorbs 17k damage for 10 seconds. It's a very long duration damage shield. And stacks Wrath of Whitestrake for 10 seconds also, so you have a buff. Each stack grants you 100 weapon and spell damage, so yes, up to 1,000. But each stack also causes you, ignore the digits there, they vary, also causes you to take 1% of your maximum health per second of that duration. And that can stack up to 10 as well. So, every single kill, you get a damage shield. Every single kill, you get 100 weapon and spell damage. And every single kill, you take 1% health damage in Oblivion damage, which you cannot shield against. So, when this is at its maximum stacks, you now have 1,000 weapon and spell damage, which is really easy to maintain or gain in the first place. And you do lose 10% health a second. Bear in mind, that damage shield protects you against absolutely everything in the Endless Archive. Bleeds, dots, poison arrows, the lot. So the only thing that you need to maintain is your health bar under the shield. So if you maintain Swallow Soul, or have someone in your group with a small ground heal, you will always maintain your health bar, and you will always cover your health bar with a damage shield from every kill that you get. Now, the 10% of your health, you will notice the more health you have, the higher the damage. It is 10%. It scales off of your max health. That damage shield, however, scales off of your weapon and spell damage. So the more buffs you get, the bigger the shield. You can go in excess of a 20k damage shield. Now, this is the biggest thing to note. Hexus Ward has a 7-second cooldown, but it's based on you doing damage. So if you're not doing damage at the moment, you won't get a shield. Obviously, this one you need to get a kill, otherwise you get a shield. But remember, Hexus has a 7-second cooldown. This doesn't have a cooldown. Every kill you get stacks that shield. It gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So get in the fight, smash stuff to pieces, keep the shield up, keep Swallow Soul up, you won't struggle. If you want to see more of that, In the live stream section on YouTube, there are a couple of videos where I've grabbed someone from the audience and I've been using this live. You will see constant damage shields, and you'll see that my health doesn't actually struggle. Just remember, you are responsible for maintaining Swallow Soul. And here's one more thing. At the end of each round, your health is going to be ticking down because the last kill was there. You've got a 10-second timer now. Don't worry. While it's nice to have a heal on the ground, just in case you're bleeding, which you shouldn't be because you've got a damage shield now and you can't be affected by it, you will lose 10% per second. 10 seconds left, 10% per second. Yes, your health will run out normally, but it won't. Because if you lose 10% per second, you still get back health recovery every 2 seconds. So you're not going to die. You won't die from oblivion damage at the end of a round. Your health will recover. But, again, your responsibility to maintain this skill. If you do that, you benefit from the passives, you benefit from the heal, and you can heal underneath the shield. Later rounds, obviously that can get quite tricky, but if you can micromanage, which you have to do in Endless Archive, you'll be fine. When you're against Throat Replicanum, quite simple. Look for the shards. If you see those shards in the room, you can interrupt them from long range. They will melt from status, and you'll get a damage shield per kill. Once they start ramping up, it makes a big, big difference, but you've got to keep the heals up. Anyway, now I'm going to go over some basics for the Endless Archive. Now, this is quite simple. All you really need to do is maintain that and that. Any target that is in front of you, activate that, and for 10 seconds, you got to heal. Outside of it is this. It's just light attack. Can't even reach. Light attack and spam. As you can see, he's covered in status effects. Now, this is outside of the Endless Archive. He's barely taken any damage in comparison to what you would in there. But you are going to hit him quite hard. Now, what I would recommend very, very highly is that you do, again, stack focused efforts if you can get it. Stack damage over time if you can get it. And also stack some survival. More healing, but not crit healing. You can't crit it. Do not attempt to get dummy numbers out of this. Oh, because it's a fake build. No, because it's designed for a purpose. This is not going to get dummy smasher numbers. It is not designed for really, really, really long fights. You could argue that later on in the Endless Archive, some of the fights are longer. Yes, they are, but you're also ramped up to hell by then. As it stands, this will delete enemies one after the other. Then you can go up against a boss, use your visions and verses, and smash it to bits. In Trials, Dungeons, and Arenas, this is not designed for those. If you want to use the Trial, Dungeons, and Arenas version, you want the regular Status Pro build. That one does hit high numbers in content. This one hits phenomenal numbers in the Endless Archive and is designed for it purely. So, now I'm going to show you some really quick clips of me smashing stuff to bits. So, hopefully that helped. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. If you can micromanage, you will be absolutely fine. If you can't practice, you'll get good at it. I do not doubt it. If you look at the top left-hand side, that's the original build for Status Pro. You can take that into other content if you want. Look at the top right, that's Malice, which is a very, very unconventional two-hander and resto tank, which works incredibly well. And if you look at the bottom two sections there, you've got the Nightblade class guide, and of course the Endless Archive guide as well, with over 68 bosses demonstrated. Thank you very much again, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.